Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world after oil. Billions of tons of coffee beans are produced annually to serve 2.25 billion cups of coffee around the world every day. Today, we will learn how the world's major coffee-producing countries harvest and process this humble bean into a beverage that billions of people around the world are addicted to. Coffee was discovered in Ethiopia in the 15th century when a goat herder named Kaldi noticed that his goats were full of energy after eating a type of cherry, later known as coffee. Thanks to the Arabs, coffee was introduced from Ethiopia to Yemen and spread to the world. Today, with a total area of over 27 million acres, coffee is now ranked as the most valuable tropical export crop globally. This area has the right amount of rainfall, temperatures between 15 and 30 degrees, and an ideal altitude of 2,000 to 6,000 feet for coffee trees to grow and process. Arabica and Robusta are the two most commercially grown varieties. Arabica has less caffeine and is usually grown in higher and cooler places, while Robusta has more caffeine and is grown in lower and hotter places. For more than 150 years, Brazil has been the world's largest coffee producer, with 2.68 million tons per year, accounting for 1/3 of the world's coffee supply. While it is possible to grow coffee from seeds, large coffee plantations often raise trees in nurseries first. This method can be more expensive but saves time and produces uniform coffee trees. First, good dried seeds are selected and then planted in a shaded nursery. After about 2 to 3 months, they will germinate and develop a few leaves. Some nurseries will transplant them into individual pots at this stage. Seedlings are cared for in the nursery for half a year to a year, until they are strong enough to be transplanted into the main planting fields. Farmers will choose fields that are shady and have rainfall of about 40 to 100 inches per year for good tree growth and air circulation. Notably, fertile and well-drained volcanic soils are excellent for this plant. Typically, farmers will pre-dig holes about 18 inches deep and 5 to 8 inches apart. The coffee trees are then carefully planted in these holes so that the roots are not damaged. Big farms in Brazil use many modern machines to speed up this process. As the trees grow for about 2 years, farmers begin regular pruning to remove dead branches and pests. Pruning is also necessary to shape the tree so that it receives enough light. Farmers also apply organic or inorganic fertilizers rich in nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to prevent coffee borers and diseases such as coffee leaf rust. Farmers also spray pesticides in a planned manner to protect their coffee plants from the very first days. Depending on the variety, it takes about 3 to 4 years for a coffee tree to bear fruit. The harvesting method depends on factors such as the coffee variety, the desired flavor, and the availability of labor. Ideally, only ripe cherries are picked when their sugar and flavor are fully developed. This selective picking method is often used for high-quality coffee, but the pay for workers is very low. Large coffee farms in Brazil are often mechanized to pick all the cherries at once, in a process called strip picking. A large truck will pass through each row on flat terrain to shake all the coffee branches off the tree. This method is faster but can lead to the picking of unripe and overripe cherries. That is why it is used for mass production of commercial coffee. After harvest, coffee cherries must be processed quickly to prevent spoilage. There are 2 main processing methods: turning the red cherries into wet and dry parchment coffee, then into green coffee, and finally roasted coffee. The wet or washed processing method involves removing the flesh of the coffee cherries before drying the beans. Harvested coffee cherries are passed through a pulper to remove the outer skin and most of the fruit flesh.
The coffee beans, still covered in mucilage, are then placed in large fermentation tanks, where natural enzymes break the skin down in 12 to 48 hours, depending on the weather conditions. After fermentation, the coffee beans are agitated in water to remove the mucilages and clean the beans. This is often done in large water channels or using mechanical scrubbers. The washed coffee beans are then drained and dried. This processing method is preferred for most specialty coffee-producing countries such as Ethiopia, Vietnam, and Indonesia, while wet processing is preferred for Arabica beans. Dry or natural processing is more common for Robusta beans. This method will further concentrate and bring out the stronger flavors of this coffee variety. Freshly picked coffee cherries are spread out in thin layers on large drying beds or patios. They are frequently turned and raked to ensure even drying and prevent fermentation. This process can take several weeks, depending on the climate. Regardless of the processing method, drying is a crucial step in coffee production. Once the coffee cherries are dried to a moisture content of around 10 to 12%, they undergo a series of milling processes, including hulling, polishing, and sorting, to prepare them for export or roasting. For wet processed coffee, hulling is the process of removing the parchment skin so it can be completely dry. But for dry processed coffee, it's the process of removing the dried fruit flesh. This step reveals the green coffee bean inside. Polishing is an optional step where any remaining silver skin on the coffee bean is removed. Sorting and screening are necessary to ensure uniformity in size, weight, and quality. In larger farms, this is mainly done by machines. Coffee beans are visually inspected for defects and to remove any faulty beans. After milling, green coffee beans are ready for export. They are typically packed in large burlap or sisal sacks, each weighing around 60 to 70 kilograms. Proper storage is essential to maintain the quality of coffee beans, as they can absorb odors and moisture from the surrounding environment. The roasting process is where the magic happens. During roasting, coffee beans undergo a series of complex chemical reactions called the Maillard reaction, which helps develop their flavor and aroma. The color of the beans changes from green to brown, and they expand and crack, similar to popcorn. The roasting time and temperature determine the final coffee flavor, ranging from light and bright to dark and bold. After roasting, coffee beans need to be ground to a size suitable for your chosen brewing method. Grind size is crucial because it affects the extraction rate of coffee and ultimately the taste of the beverage. A coarse grind is suitable for French press brewing, while a very fine grind works best for Turkish coffee. Brewing is the final step that transforms roasted and ground coffee beans into a delicious cup of coffee. To extract the optimal flavor, grinding fresh coffee beans right before brewing is essential. There are many different brewing methods available, each one affecting the characteristics of the final cup. Every country has its unique way of enjoying coffee, adding to the diversity and richness of coffee culture worldwide. Turkish coffee is brewed in a sezve surrounded by hot sand due to limited heat sources in the 16th century. The Vietnamese creamy egg coffee was created during a time of economic hardship in the 1940s when milk was scarce. What's the most famous coffee drink in your country? And that's the story of the world's most popular beverage. What other topics would you like to learn more about? Like and subscribe for more exciting videos.